folks. Welcome once again, everybody, to Irish Sports Daily Power Hour. I am your host, Mike Frank, here with my good buddy, Jamie Uyeyama, and the best cut man in the business, Greg Flamong. I call him the cut man because he kind of comes in and saves us. You know what I mean, Lav man? Uyeyama. He comes in and kind of saves us, and we have this every once in a while we get off track, and then he comes in with his little ad cues and all this kind of stuff. So the Monger is certainly the best producer in the business.
Best of the biz.
Yeah, absolutely is. So we love having him. Before we get going, wanted to mention once again, it's a great time to sign up for Irish Sports Daily. This thing's been fun. It's been a fun year. Obviously did not start as well, but hey, we're still plugging along, and Notre Dame is still very much in the playoff race and breaking hearts and making people angry. And we're going to talk about that here in a while. Also, if you are not a subscriber to our YouTube channel, make sure you find us on YouTube and search for Irish Sports Daily. You can subscribe to the channel. That'll let you know when we have new content that's up. We have lots of content that comes out every week. And so also, if you would, please like our videos. It certainly helps us. And if you like this stuff, please share it with other people. That would be great as well. And then we wanted to mention our first sponsor, which is ES Clothing, who has a big sale going on right now. Greg, do you want to pop in here and give the details of the sale?
Yes, sir. It's a Black Friday sale. Just went live this last weekend. Notre Dame scored 49 points against Navy. So therefore, you get 49% off on all online items through Thanksgiving. Ge Wang is sweating it. He's sending text messages. He's dying over there. I know he was nervous. Like there's 6 minutes left in the third quarter. Notre Dame's got 42 points. No one was happier about the drop pass by Jabron Payne, where he would have walked into the end zone. Then
totally would have too.
Clothing, of course. It is the season of gifting. ESQ here to help you, your husband, father, son, nephew, even the unlikable uncle, some style for holidays. Known for the next level craftsmanship using the finest fabrics, ESQ has introduced a 100% Pima cotton t-shirt to go along with its award-winning bamboo dress shirt, available for purchase online. Go to esqclothing.com, use code ISD, and you're going to get 49% off all online items from now until Thanksgiving. So that's the Black Friday sale. Black 3 weeks that are going on right now from Ge Wang. So ESQ Clothing, 49% off, code ISD.
All right, go to esqclothing.com, and you can find that there. And we greatly appreciate because it's not just, that God does a great job with his clothing, and he does a great job of giving ISD customers sales and things like that. But he's just a great guy too, Yama. I mean, he's just a really good person, and you want to support good people. So I'm glad that he's been with us for so long, and I know so many of our customers have bought clothing from him, and everybody is very, very satisfied with it. It's the top quality that you can possibly get. So, all right, Yama. I mean, first of all, I want to start off by saying I think we all know that Marcus Freeman was not happy after the Boston College game. And there have been times throughout his career as a head coach where he hasn't been happy with the result. And here's the thing that I think is the sign of a good coach. There are a lot of coaches that get upset and they may get a little angry and fiery and things like that. And sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't. And I don't think Marcus Freeman goes in and just yells at people or any of those types of things. I think he's very, very conscious of how to handle certain things and what to do. But I don't think there's any question he was not very happy with their performance at Boston College, and rightfully so. But I think that the sign of a great coach is when they get on the team and they, demand more. Does that show up? And I can't think of a time where it didn't show up. And to me, that just another kind of big mark for Marcus Freeman, in that every time he feels like they need something extra or they need to fix some things, he goes out, he does what he does, and then all of a sudden Notre Dame starts playing like Notre Dame again. And it's rare that you get a coach who can do that over and over and over again. So just your thoughts here.
Well, and I think too, that's one of the reasons, if you look at it, like there's numbers that since Marcus Freeman's been head coach, like Notre Dame covers the spread more than any other team in the country. And it's because of like the standard that, Marcus Freeman demands. And that's why. You want to know the biggest reason why Notre Dame is in a position right now where people are complaining, oh, they haven't beat anybody. They're not this, they're that, or whatever. And that they're 10th. It's because they played well. Like they played better than most of these other teams, where there's a lot of teams that have a similar record. Miami has the same record as them and beat Notre Dame, but Notre Dame has played so much better than Miami since then, and have played better than most of these other 2-loss teams. And that is
and some 1-loss teams too,
and some 1-loss teams. But it's exactly because of what you said, Mike. He sees a problem and he's like, hey, we got to fix this. And he demands that they do. And he holds people accountable. And because of that, that's why. And that's that's the same thing when they were talking about there was a question about the players holding each other accountable too. It's the same thing with that comes from the top, right? That comes from the top. And it's really, that's why Notre Dame is at where they're at, and why, everybody wants Marcus Freeman to be Notre Dame's head coach for a really long time.
It's interesting because I don't know if you read my commentary after the game. Some people do, some don't. One of the things that stood out to me, and I pointed it out in my commentary, is that the sign, I think, of great leadership is when you just don't throw people under the bus, and that's what this guy does. And if people go back to after Texas A&M, after Miami, after really some of the games earlier in the year, and Notre Dame's defense was struggling, and it would have been very easy for Marcus Freeman to stand there and, just start casting stones and saying, well, we got to play better on defense and we got to coach this better. And he didn't do any of that. None of it. It was all, it's my problem. I got to fix it. It's on me. We have to fix this. I got to take care of this, blah, blah, blah. Never once did, and look, the fans, even some media tried to get him to say, hey, this is a problem. And he just would not take the bait. And your dad's a coach, a legendary coach up there in Canada, and had done it a long time. And I can't tell you how much that means to other coaches when you have a guy that stands up there and he knows, Marcus knows, Chris Ash knows, they know that it was not working, things were not going. Everybody knows that. But your job as a head coach is to protect everybody around you. You take the arrows, and the reason you do that is because you also get paid the most. You're the guy who is in charge of everything. It is ultimately your responsibility. But what Marcus Freeman did was he sat there and he said, look, we got to get this fixed. It's on me. We got to get it. I will get to work on this and we will get it fixed. And I'm not sure everything is fixed at this point, but certainly a lot of things have been fixed and they've done a really good job of it. But, Marcus and Chris Ash didn't know each other. They're both taking a chance on each other. They don't really know each other, don't have a common history or coached at the same places. They know people who know each other, but they don't really know. And I think that is such a big thing moving forward, because Nick Saban, one thing he was so good at was being able to find new coaches and bring them in. But guess what? Nobody's going to want to work for you if you just throw people under the bus. And it's so refreshing that a first-year head coach or first-time head coach knows this and understands that. And I just got to give him a lot of credit in that regard, that when things go bad, he's not a guy who throws anybody under the bus, no players, no coaches. And it's just, that's going to pay dividends. And, no matter what happens with Chris Ash, how long he's around, I guarantee you he's going to have a lot of positive things to say about Marcus Freeman, because when you're in their most stressful time, you need leadership to help you solve what the issues are. And I got to give him a lot of respect. And I think that it's a small thing maybe for some people, but I don't think they understand how important that is to a coaching staff, and not just a coaching staff, but probably more important, the culture of the program. Chris Ash is with these people all the time. If he's miserable and he feels like he's being thrown under the bus, he's not going to be able to get the defense to play for him. So I just think that it's one kind of hidden thing you don't see a lot of. And thoughts on that real quick, Jamie?
Well, yeah, I mean, the season could have fallen apart. That absolutely could have happened. And it would have happened especially if he was like publicly calling it out in a way that, like, frankly, a lot of coaches do that, and they do publicly call it out. And, it is one of those things. It doesn't go so well. Right. So, I think that it says a lot about, what they have. And also too, like that, even if he is, going to chew somebody out, privately, because he'll do that too. Like he will. But he doesn't make it public. He's not trying to embarrass anybody. He's not trying to do that. And like, it's one of these things too, where that's why so many of the players too, how easy it would be for just a player to just be like, I'm out of here because of the transfer portal and all of that.
Yeah.
And he protects his players all the time in the media. And it's refreshing. Obviously it's the opposite of the previous guy who was the head coach at Notre Dame before that, who like whenever anything went wrong, it seemed to be somebody else's fault.
Amen.
And it's just one of these things why, people can be fairly critical of how they've started the season sometimes, but like, you can't say they haven't responded, and they wouldn't respond in that way if he didn't have that buy-in.
The other thing too, Jamie, is we've been doing this a long time. A lot of teams just don't get better. They just don't get better. They just are who they are. Under Marcus Freeman, every single year the team has gotten better as the season goes on. That's a great sign of coaching. That's a great sign of player buy-in, culture buy-in, all that type of thing. So very, very exciting. Now let's get to the game. And we mentioned Ash, and we got to give Ash a lot of credit. I mean, we have to give Ash a lot of credit. I know Marcus Freeman was heavily, heavily involved with the defense last week, but still, somebody's calling the game, right? Somebody's got to call the game and do the right things. And other than the one play that we kind of talked about in chat, in our group chat that we have during the game, I didn't have anything to complain about. And a lot of people may have gotten frustrated, but it wasn't anything that was scheme wise. It was just players not winning their individual matchups early. That's really what it was. And so I think that you got to give Chris Ash, this is not a good or an easy thing for first time coordinators to go against and to do as well as they did. I realize, Horvath did not play, but I don't think that mattered. I think the other kid played really, really well.
Yeah,
he really did. And if he wasn't playing, they probably would have done absolutely nothing on offense because he was really their entire offense that they had the entire game. So I don't think Horvath could have made much of a difference in this game at all. I just think that Notre Dame showed up, especially second half, and said, okay, we're Notre Dame. We're just way better than you, and we're going to show that to you. So you got to give defensively, I think they did a tremendous job. There weren't, you do a good job when you don't see the big plays, right? You have a good scheme and you're executing it well when you don't have the 30, 40, 80-yard runs and things like that. Just didn't see any of that. And so got to give them a lot of credit. Your thoughts on the defense after the rewatch?
Yeah, I mean, I thought especially because it always takes time when you're playing to get used to like the speed that they're doing it. All of a sudden you think it's dive and it's not, it's counter option. And there's so many different things that are thrown at you, and you do get paralyzed, as Marcus Freeman said, by all the things that you're running at you, instead of worrying about just like kicking the dude's butt right in front of you and just winning. Because, and that's the thing, right? Is like, if you play assignment football and just play ball, like literally, and it comes back to what, the football, not fitball. If you're coming off the ball and you're doing exactly what Kingston Uyeyama did, when he's just like, I'm just going to blow up this guy. And, on the fourth down too, which Todd Blackledge, mentioned it. He was the guy who made the play on the big fourth down stop they had. he's just attacking. And that's was the difference really when they started to kind of like figure it out is they were attacking. I agree. I don't think that Horvath wouldn't have made that big of a difference. He might have had, I think he would have probably added like 1 or 2 explosives because he's a little bit more explosive a runner. Like that is the kind of thing. Obviously, he had a 47-yard touchdown last year. He had a 60-yard run as well. That's what he can bring a little bit more than what Woodson can bring, maybe a little bit better decision making. But they still weren't going to come close because Notre Dame really like did a job on them. And I think like I'll give credit to the defensive line because I really think, especially when you're missing, you don't have Rubio, you don't have Heinisch. You got guys like Seviano and Mukum who haven't played all year, who have to come in there and play. It did a solid job. And you look at like, this wasn't a game like Boubacar Traore didn't play because it in truth, it isn't the best fit for him to play against, but Burnham and Tuihalamaka both did a great job in this game. And that was just one of those things that like stood out in the game. Like, and Jaden Osbury, it's like you play against this team and you get used to more seeing it. All of a sudden it just becomes more instinctual and you see a guy like him just like making plays out there. And I thought they just did a great job. The whole defensive staff did a great job of putting those guys in the right position. And I understand that Navy hasn't played the toughest schedule, but I don't care. That offense is good. It's just good, period. Yeah. And for they actually this year, they played it better this year against that offense than they did last year because Navy gave them the ball 5 times last year, right?
6. There were 6 turnovers.
Yeah. Yeah, but they just like handed them the ball, without the other one was a pick, but like they were just like making mistakes on their own. And this wasn't a case where like Navy didn't turn the ball over, even the ball that got stripped, like they fell on it, right? So they didn't have that. They just stopped them, and like Navy had 6 punts in this game. They hadn't punted more than 4 times in a game all year, right? Like they averaged 2 punts a game. So you're making them punt 6 times. You're playing pretty well.
Yeah. And again, there wasn't anybody you could point to that played bad. You couldn't say, well, that guy was terrible. And if that's the case, then you did a really good job of coaching. If everybody knows what to do, there's probably a missed tackle here for each guy or whatever. But there wasn't one guy that just looked out like he had no business knowing what the heck he was doing out there. And that really says that you did a good job of communicating and explaining their responsibilities, and then the players taking that information and executing it. And so that was exciting. Offensively, I think it was what we wanted. And here's the thing. I think the thing that didn't get mentioned much, and it's probably because in the 3rd and 1 or whatever, they got blown up and it just was a miserable short yardage. If you rewatch, even when I was watching it, Denbrock broke some tendencies in this game, right? When it came to short yardage, and you got some big plays out of it too. And, the Ty Washington play, down at the goal line, throwing it out there in the flat. These are the types of plays that's how you keep a defensive honest. You want to start doing some stuff on the perimeter because then they can't just jumble in and destroy your ability to run. So Denbrock did break some tendencies in some of his play calling in the short yardage stuff, especially down in the red zone. The phase-on play, I believe it was 4th down. This is how you break those tendencies and make teams pay for. If you're just going to bunch up here and do this, this is what we're going to do, and we're going to just walk in the end zone. So I think that was really important for him to do that. And I think a lot of people are like, well, we just should be able to run it in. Well, yeah, you probably should, but you also have to make people worried about it. And I don't think he was doing a great job of that before. And now that you've put that out on tape and shown people that, hey, we're going to do this more, teams are going to have to be worried about it. And you can't pinch inside so much. And so I like seeing that. I think that was a good positive. Notre Dame didn't run the ball great, but they did towards, once they kind of started hitting some big plays. And we knew that that's probably what was going to come. But I tell you what, Jamie, the thing that makes a difference between this quarterback and really so many that have played before him. His deep ball accuracy and just his overall accuracy, and more important, and I think just as important, third and fourth down accuracy, his ability to place the ball where it needs to be, elite. It really is elite. And you sit there and you think, this is 9 games this guy's played, and he's playing as well as Ian Book ever played, any of these guys ever played. He's recognizing things at the line of scrimmage. He's changing into better plays, and that's 9 games. I mean, that's pretty remarkable. The mind of CJ Carr, and then you throw the physical tools in there and his accuracy, and just probably a huge point being the deep ball accuracy, which Notre Dame's been lacking really probably since Deshaun Kaiser, who was a pretty good deep ball thrower. It opens up everything, and it was really, really exciting to see. Thoughts on the offensive performance?
Yeah, I think the thing with Carr, especially, on those third downs, and, Notre Dame dominated third down on both sides of the ball in this game. And he throws the deep ball, and everybody knows he can throw the deep ball well, and they can take advantage of that. Anytime they're going to get one-on-one situations, they can take advantage of it. And that is thanks to, the receivers, the talent they have at receiver and tight end with Eli Raridan too. But he can just make any throw that you want. And that is honestly, Notre Dame hasn't had that. They really haven't had that. And probably since Jimmy Clausen was the closest guy to that. And CJ Carr's a much better quarterback than Jimmy Clausen. Even Jimmy Clausen in his third year, he's a better player, and he's a better athlete, and he's probably going to get better and better than him too.
Oh, yeah.
And because Carr isn't also throwing to Floyd and Tate and Rudolph, right? Like they got good talent, but they don't need to snap those guys. So I think the thing that always sticks out to me about Carr is how he puts the ball, and I think this is the thing that if people watch a USC game and he did not, and this is the one game where he didn't have that, where it was like he was just off. And you thought, oh, maybe it's the weather. Obviously, it wasn't just the weather, because you look at him in this weather, it was ugly. It was ugly, and he was putting it on guys. And so much of those third down conversions are he hits right out of the break.
Right out of the break, yeah.
Will Pauling's running a curl, boom, it's on him. That gives him a chance for Yak. All of a sudden, ball's inside the 5-yard line.
Yep.
Hits Faison just right out of his break. Faison, the reason Faison, who is great after catch and extremely tough to tackle, but if you look at like most of the times that he's able to have that is because the ball is put on him right there. It's right there every time. And so he has that chance. He has space to do that. And even like those contested catches from Fields, I know he had the one drop. First of all, it was his only drop of the year. He's been very reliable with Sands, but he made some of those catches that he made, which are very tough in the weather as well. It's because the ball is put perfectly. Like the ball is exactly where it needs to be. And I was looking at this, Mike, too, because I just think the one thing with Notre Dame's offense, and obviously it's so dangerous because they have the backs, and everybody knows how special those backs are. And, they know that Notre Dame can get you like deep down the field, and they can do all these things. And Carr's capable of making all these throws. And if you like overplay the run, they're going to kill you. And they can check into runs when they have light boxes. That's something that Carr doesn't get enough credit for. He's done a great job of that. But it's just a balance that they have throughout, right? Where they can run. If you give them the run, they're going to take it and they're going to kill you with it. If you give them the pass, it's the same thing. But it's not like anyone can go into a game and say, wow, we really need to take away this guy. Because they just have multiple guys who can make plays and who have been reliable, who've been able to do things. They have 5 different players who have 30 plus targets. That's not a normal thing to have that many guys do it. Like Faison leads the team in catches and also with targets with 54. There's over 100 guys in college football who have more targets than him. And he's the guy with the most targets. on Notre Dame's team. For a lot of teams, they have their second or third guy has more targets than Faison, but it's because of how they spread the ball around, right?
Yeah.
And Carr's still putting up like big numbers, right? So he leads the nation in yards per attempt, right? Because obviously they've thrown the deep ball, they've connected so many times, and they're one of the most explosive passing offenses in the country. But it's just like, it's not just like 2019 where it's like, well, we got Claypool and he can just kill you this, or we got Will Fuller and there's that, and a little bit of the 2015 because they could spread it around, but not quite like this. It's not the same, and it's really like Eli Reardon doesn't even get a target in the game. But I'm going to tell you this week, Eli Reardon's going off against Pitt, Mike. And I'm not because he didn't get the thing. I'll get into it in the scouting report later in the week, but like they get killed by tight ends. So Eli Reardon's going to have a game.
Here's the other thing. Notre Dame hasn't had the kind of vert speed that they have right now. They haven't guys. You got KK Smith, you got Faison, you've got Pauling and Fields. All four of those guys can get vertical, right? They can get deep, and so you can't just, oh, okay, well, we got to watch this guy playing field here because he can get vertical. No, you can get a tight end down the middle of the seam. You can get anywhere, and so Notre Dame has to be able to, or teams have to be able to defend the entire field. But then you have a quarterback who doesn't just lock on to one guy. He's trying to find the open man, and he's delivering the football as you talking about, perfectly on time, and that allows for so much yards after the catch that it makes them an explosive offense. And it's just one of these things that the crazy thing about it is, and this is what I've been saying for really the whole year, is Concepcion isn't going to get any better than he is, right? You look at some of these receivers around the country. Jeremiah Smith is Jeremiah Smith. Carnell Tate is that. They're not getting any better. All of Notre Dame's receivers can and have gotten better. Jordan Faison, I've been critical of him, and because of the drops and some what I called lazy blocking. But man, what an amazing turnaround he's had. He has had a tremendous season, and his hands have been outstanding, and his route running has been great, and his blocking has been great, and he has really developed into a big-time player for Notre Dame. And so all the credit in the world to him. He's done a tremendous job. But all those receivers, look, Ohio State is a very good football team. Indiana is a very good football team. But I don't think that they can get much better on offense, because I think a lot of their players are just kind of who they are. And the frustrating thing for me, and again, everybody knows I'm such a big line guy, but man, could you imagine if they had Craig, Strouth, and Jagasaw in this offensive line, what they could be? It could be amazing what they could be. But you know what? A lot of teams have injuries and things like that, and that's the way it is. And but you just got to roll through it. The good news is Otting's playing well. Now that he's had some time under there, he's playing well. Is it perfect? No, but Craig wasn't perfect either. He made some mistakes, but I think Otting's done a good job. I thought Sullivan Absher improving. He's going to get even better next week, and that's what you got to hope for, and see what happens. Now, wanted to bring on Greg and get his thoughts on the game and see what he thinks.
I'm digging this whole conversation about the deep ball. I was looking while you guys were talking. I was looking at the PFF numbers. CJ Carr now has more 20-plus yard completions than they had all of last year, which is in 16 games. And so he's done it in 9. He's got 23 completions. He's 2 less than Sam Hartman did in 12 games for the team in 2023. Yeah, more than Jack Cohn. Obviously more than the Pine and the Buckner years, but like that's kind of where it is. And Jamie was talking about and you guys were both talking about they have different ways to do it. Like Faison can get behind a defense. KK Smith's caught a couple posts. He caught a post in this game. Malachi Fields is also a guy that they can get vertical. I feel like they haven't gotten him vertical as much as they probably could. I think the same is true of Raridan. And I think what Jamie pointed out too is no one is actually doing numbers kind of except for the quarterback. which is actually a good thing, right? It's not great for those individual players, but if the quarterback is able to find a certain whoever it might be on a particular play, like that is the hard part for the defense. You remember when we always would talk about, like, do you want the one guy, like when it was Michael Floyd caught 100 passes in 2011, or is it's like Tyler Eifert when you had that singular focus, was Chase Claypool in 2019, right? Is it easy? Do you want that, or do you want the variety? Like Notre Dame is able to push the ball down the field, and it's not just one guy every time. It's very difficult for the defense to bracket somebody, right? You could very easily bracket Chase Claypool. You can't do that now, right? You can't just bracket Malachi Fields. Oh, we'll just throw deep to Will Pauling. I mean, BC is a perfect example of that. You know, and if we're going to do that, then we'll run the Mills concept, and we'll run Faison on a dig, and then we'll get KK Smith on a post, and we'll hit you that way. That's the hard part, right? It's not just a one-trick pony with with the passing game. It's the variety, right? Variety matters. You know it matters whether it's your passing game, whether it's your offense, or whether it's your chocolate, right? And if you're going in on a holiday treat, and you got to give a gift box of something, of chocolates, you want good variety, and you want that variety to be quality, right? So it's one thing to be passing the ball around to wide receivers, but they all got to be good. Same thing with chocolates. If you want a box of chocolates, you want them all to be good. You don't want just a couple good ones and then a bunch of duds. You get that with Goods Candies. It's a small Indiana-based chocolate company with recipes going back 100 years. They're a small batch producer of decadent confections ranging from toffee to cream centers to their latest offering, peanut butter bombs. Forrest Gump said, life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. But with Good Candies, you know what you're getting, right? When Notre Dame goes in the portal, they want to know what they're getting, right? So that's what they do. They go get the guys out of the portal. They know what they're getting. You get that with your chocolate. All varieties are offered in milk and dark chocolate. For the business listeners, Good Candies offers customized chocolate bar gift boxes. These aren't customized wrappers like you get at the bank. These are customized chocolate bars that include your logo or a message. These make the ideal client gift, and Goods Candies can handle all shipping for you. Their website is www.goodscandies.com. Viewers can save 20% through the end of the year with the promo code ISD. Place your order online or reach out to Goods Candies at goodscandies.com with questions.
All right. So I think about the thing with CJ Carr, and I just think we're kind of getting the tip of the iceberg. I'm not going to say he's going to get way better, because I'm not sure you can be. But his decision making, and here's the other thing that stands out to me when you rewatch the games, Jamie. So many times in the past, we'd be watching the game, and you know, when you tend to watch it live, you watch where the ball goes, and you're not watching everything else that's out there. And how many times did we see, okay, well, yeah, they might have completed this 7-yard pass, but 30 yards down the field, somebody's running wide open, and why did the quarterback not see that? That doesn't happen with Carr. He finds the guy. Now, I think there was one time in this particular game that there was somebody else that was open, but he also further deeper down the road, I can't remember exactly who it was, but he threw the ball to a wide open receiver. It was a great decision. He was sort of rushed. Yeah, he probably could have taken that other shot if he wanted to, but when you're rushed like that and you see somebody open, you got to make that throw. It is very rare that we've seen that with CJ Carr, and he just has a great vision. And the thing that's really kind of surprising, Jamie, is, and I'll say this, we haven't seen a lot of practice to know, but when we've watched, he's never looked this good in practice. This was not who we saw in spring or the previous years. We saw glimpses of him being accurate and doing these things, but we never saw this kind of precision and decision making and just complete accuracy. It really is stunning how much he's come since we saw him in the spring and the very little we got to see of him in the fall. So you just got to wonder, how much better can this guy get? And I mean, I'm just so excited about the future, because that there's a lot of talent a wide receiver that's still out there. By the way, great to see Cam Williams get in the game and get mixed in there and everything. I don't think they play him unless he's starting to rise a little bit. They've been talking about KK for a long time. Love to see him get in there and do some things. And so the future of this thing looks great. It was also great to see Aeneas. Everybody keeps thinking, oh, well, and then Aeneas comes in there and a couple of really nice runs in there and then showed the burst. He showed a nice burst getting through there. I was like, boy, that looks a lot like Kyron to me, man. It does, with a little bit bigger body. So they just got so much talent that's going to be around that I think the future for this offense, especially when you have a guy who can throw with this kind of accuracy and deep ball, it's just going to explode. I'm so excited about the future of Notre Dame's offense, and it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. Anything you want to add about the offense?
Well, and I think one of the things too, it just shows when you got guys like KK Smith and I know Cam Williams didn't get a chance to catch the ball because it was a PI, but it's one of those things where when guys go out and show that they can do that and then get open like that, even in these situations where it's in a blowout game, that's the kind of thing that gives the coaching staff, even on top of what they see in practice, where they say, we don't have to go to the portal, where I think there's probably a lot of people who just assume, like Notre Dame fans who just assumed, well, they'll get a couple more receivers in the portal again next year because Faison's or not Faison, but Pauling's going to be gone and Fields is gone, so they'll just do that, and maybe they will go in and get someone in the portal, whatever, but they really got talent, guys. The guys there, and we've heard it. It's not like we didn't hear about Micah Gilbert looks good or KK Smith looks good or anything like that, but it's a different thing seeing it, right? And I think, and everybody kind of knew Aeneas Williams is a good football player. It's just that he just happens to be the third back on a team that has the two best backs in the country to play together. And I would say, even if you're looking at it, a lot from the perspective of the offensive line, Otting and Sullivan Absher are going to be tested more as they come along. There's greater test this week, but tell me that those guys wouldn't start for a lot of the teams that Notre Dame has played this year. They would.
Oh, absolutely, right? They would.
So,
sure, they would.
Yeah, and so I think it's a testament to what they're doing in recruiting, what they're doing in development with all of these guys, and obviously you see it on defense too, right? It's the same thing where you just see that. And it is something, and that is something that really does stand out when we do get a chance to watch practice in the spring and in the summer, is that Notre Dame is just so much deeper and more athletic, it as a whole, as a roster, than they were before, where they're just guys that that when it's their time, they have a chance to be great players. And there's a lot of guys like that.
Yeah, I'm very, very excited because I think so many of these guys are just going to really surprise people once they get going. And the best thing about this, Jamie, is Notre Dame has struggled to get quarterbacks and they've struggled to get receivers for the longest time. And the reason why is they just weren't very good at either position for a while. They're just not putting guys in the NFL. They're not showing the kind of explosiveness that these players want to play in. And now you're getting that. And trust me, that's going to open the eyes of so many players. It's like as soon as Notre Dame started playing great at defensive back, now all of a sudden every defensive back in the country wants to come and play for Mike Mickens because look what he does to these players. They come in, they just play well. I mean, he coaches them up and they're very good players and they have a chance to be NFL first round picks. And so you got to be excited about that. Same thing I think is going to happen with quarterback and wide receiver as long as this continues. And the good news is you'll have at least one more year CJ Carr, and so that's going to be exciting and hopefully more and more explosive plays, and it's going to help the whole situation. I know everybody saw the comments by Texas Tech Joey. I mean, first of all, you're a grown man. Who the hell's Joey? I'm sorry. I just, it is what it is. You're almost 60. It looks like, you know what I mean? It's like, you're Joey. But anyway, this is going to be the situation. And it's a great situation, to be honest with you. Now, nobody would be talking about it if Notre Dame would have beat Texas A&M like they probably should have, right? Nobody would be talking about this. It wouldn't even be in the conversation because they would be who they are, and with one loss, and nobody would have anything to say. But I love it. I think it's great. I'm glad that everybody's angry about it. I'll tell you what, Texas Tech, who have you beaten? You haven't beaten anybody. And it's not that I'm saying that Notre Dame has, beaten a bunch of great teams either, because they really haven't beaten a bunch of great teams. But I think for you to stand there and make these comments about who Notre Dame is and should they be in the conference and all this type of stuff, dude, just take care of your own self. All right. Notre Dame's going to do what they're going to do until somebody says that they can't do it. And as long as Notre Dame continues to win and they go in the playoff and they play well, that's the best way to shut all these people up. But guess what? They're not going to shut up until the final thing is picked. It's going to start. It started this week. You're going to have some ACC teams, probably the one that they're playing on Saturday. I'm sure he's going to have some comments about it, and some of these other ACC teams that are trying to stay in the race here. Miami, I'm sure all these teams are going to be sitting there having these comments. Anybody in the Big 12? But I'm sorry, Big 12, they suck. It's a bad conference. It just is.
It's a terrible conference.
Do I think Texas Tech is a good team? Yeah, I do. I think that they're good.
Yeah, they're good.
I think that, and as long as they win out, they should be in the playoff. But I think you have a very high opinion of yourself because you're beating a bunch of very bad teams in the Big 12. If Notre Dame played these teams, they'd win by 35. They really would. I've watched these teams. They don't play defense. They don't have the athletes on defense to stop somebody like Notre Dame. They don't. They might have a few good players on defense, but you need a team like Ohio State to stop Notre Dame. That's the kind of defense you need. You need great players at all levels, and you need players that have two good corners and good safeties and guys who can cover a tight end and guys who can win at the line of scrimmage. So Texas Tech has the Bailey guy, that's his name. That guy's a good pass rusher. Don't get me wrong. He's a really good player. But you don't have a lot of those guys on defense. You have some good players. Don't get me wrong. But that guy is special. I will give them credit for him. He really is a great player. But let's see how he does when he plays against some really great teams. And then we'll have a better understanding. But I do like him. I think he's a good player. And I do think that Texas Tech's defense is good, but we saw this with SMU and last year and some of these other teams that got in there. Boise, they're good teams, don't get me wrong, and they deserve to be there, don't get me wrong. But we'll see how it ends up when it comes time to play the games. And until then, I think Notre Dame earned the right last year for people to say, hey, Notre Dame's a good team, because they are. Are they great? I don't know. We'll see. But I think they're very good, and they're going to be a handful for anybody they play. That's Indiana. That's Ohio State. That's anybody that they're going to face. Texas A&M, they already were a handful for Texas A&M, and they didn't even play well. So, it is what it is. And I was listening to comments today or yesterday on the College Sports Network, and they're talking about the SEC getting 6 teams in. I'm sorry, 6 SEC teams. I realize it's a tough conference, but those, there's not a lot of great teams in the SEC. There's a lot of good ones, right? But you're going to tell me that, I don't know. I'm just trying to think of who may, is Vanderbilt better than Notre Dame? No, I don't think so. Do I think that Vanderbilt's a good team? Do I think they got a good quarterback? Yes, but I don't think they're better than Notre Dame. And I don't think Ole Miss is better than Notre Dame. I'm not sure that A&M is better than Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame can play toe-to-toe with Georgia and Alabama, no problem. I really do. So just thoughts on this. And I think the fans need to understand this is just going to happen until they pick the very last thing, and we see where Notre Dame is. This is what people are going to be saying across the board. All Notre Dame can do is go out and beat the crap out of Pittsburgh. They do that, and that's another data point that they can just point to. So your thoughts here, Jimmy?
Yeah, I mean, come on, Texas Tech guy. Obviously, I can't say act like you've been there before because you've never been there. Like you're Texas Tech, so congrats on the billionaire given 30 million so you can buy a roster. But like, yeah, and you have a good roster, you have good players. But like, I said this when we were talking about them in the Big 12 in general last week. They don't have the depth to when they start playing actual like real teams. Once they get in the playoff, like they might win a playoff game, but they're not going to go far because they won't last because they don't have enough roster. Like they don't have like KK Smith as a backup there. You know what I mean? They don't have those same guys there. That the depth there isn't the same. And that's how those teams end up getting exposed, right? Is that they have good top line players, but then when it comes down to it, they lose. And like also too, like it has nothing to do with like I don't even know, like maybe because they're worried about like Texas Tech getting a home game. Like why do people always pick Notre Dame? And why does Notre Dame, like what does Notre Dame literally have to do to be like they're to prove that they're good? Like I don't know, like seems pretty obvious. It seems like patently obvious. And I just don't know. Like and like I saw there was a thing from like Chris Felica, the bear from Fox Sports today, who was like tweeting about how Notre Dame has played 3 teams that are at the bottom of their conference. Everyone has played bad teams. You could point it out. Like every single one of these teams has played like 3 or 4 just duds, because that's how it works out. Because
somebody's got to be at the bottom of the conference.
Someone has to be at the bottom. Someone has to be at the bottom. And no one is going to play all just like the hardest schedule ever, except for apparently Arkansas, who has like the hardest schedule of all time. But like everybody else is like they're playing teams that are just at the bottom. And even Arkansas, I'm sorry, like Arkansas is not a bad team. They might have a bad record. They're not a bad football team. They're like probably like 8 points away from being like having a winning record. That's how close all of their losses have been. So it's just, I don't know. It's always going to be silly and it's always going to be stupid. But like, I think one of the things that you just have seen with, Notre Dame, and kind of goes back to what we're talking about at the beginning, Mike, is that the reason why Notre Dame is getting respect from like the committee and from just in general for people who actually know ball is because they've gotten better. Like they've won these 7 straight games, but it's like, look at them compared to where they are at the beginning of the year compared to they are now. They're a much better football team now. And that's what's good football
defensively,
teams.
But even offensively.
Offensively
both sides.
Too. Yeah. And
both sides have improved greatly. They really have.
And
can Miami say that?
No, they can't.
Can Miami say
that's why Miami was 18th. And that's the thing with, that was the thing with Ohio State last year, is maybe it didn't look like they were good going into the playoff because they lost to Michigan, but they got so much better when they played that time off between then and them playing in the playoff. They were a different team. They got so much better in their final, 4 games that they played. And that's why they ended up winning the national championship. And it's the same thing with Notre Dame last year. The reason why that they were able to compete and get to the point where they were in the national championship game is because they got better as the year went on. Even though they lost so many players to injury, they still were managed to either be as good or better that whole time. And I just don't think that there's a lot of programs that are built like that. So I don't know. And there's definitely more parity at the top in college football in general. I don't know how it's going to work out, like who's going to get home games, who's going to make it. I just know that if Notre Dame takes care of business this week and like really like plays like they can against Pitt, then they'll win the game, and then they'll win the last 2 games, and they're going to be in.
Yeah, no question. Go ahead, Greg.
You know how people always say like no free ads?
Yeah.
Thank you to Joey. Thank you for the free pub. Thank you to Chris Falica for the free pub. Thank you to Signetti and Narduzzi and James Franklin and all these teams. I mean, this man won a top 10 matchup. One of the bigger wins in the program's history. and he found time to bring up Notre Dame. Imagine
Living rent-free.
if Marcus Freeman, if Notre Dame, Notre Dame goes on the playoff run, and all that happens, and after the game, he brings up some random team, just random, like, hey, he never.
Cignetti's been doing that since he left.
Yeah,
since they lost.
the juxtaposition between these guys who all complain about Notre Dame and Marcus Freeman never brings up anybody. He never talks about another school. He never complains about referees. He never complains about travel. He never complains about anything, ever. He just does his job. And the fact that these teams keep bringing up Notre Dame, like to me, it is so weak. Like, it is truly weak. And it is truly like a inferiority complex that goes along with it. If you're a recruit, like, Notre Dame is recruiting as well as they ever have. And I think part of it, like, this goes into that. If you're a recruit and all these coaches are just bringing up Notre Dame at random, you're going to be like, well, what's going on with that situation? I want to go. Like, why would you do that? Just handle your own business. You don't need to do that. Like, to me, I think it's great. I think it's great. Like, you're good. Like, it is so weak that you're going to passive aggressively bring up Notre Dame. Just say what you want to say, man. You want to talk about Notre Dame? Then say Notre Dame. I have
at least have the balls to say the name. Yeah. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
To James Franklin's credit, at least he said it when Marcus Freeman was there.
He said it to his face.
He said it to his face. He stood on business.
It didn't work out well for him, though.
It didn't work out, and it doesn't have to, but at least he had the integrity. Like, oh, you know who I'm talking about. Well, why don't you say who you're talking about? Like, if you feel strongly, have an opinion, no problem. It's fine to have opinions, but then speak on it. Don't do this thing where it's like, well, you know who I'm talking about. Like, say who you're talking about. Maybe he has a problem with UConn. I don't know. Maybe it's a Jim Mora thing, right? I'm not sure what that is. Right? Yeah. Shout out to UConn, doing a real good job. So look, they're living, like you said, rent free. And look, if they're gonna do free ads, then that's great, right? If people are gonna offer you something for free, then take it. You know who else is offering free stuff? H2 Pickleball is offering free stuff. They have free membership, and they have a free Will House pickleball clinic. Actually, I don't know if that's free, actually, but the membership is free. I don't want to say that because you get access to special pickleball events and discounts. It's H2 Pickleball. It's founded by Notre Dame alum Todd Hill. He's teaming with fellow alums Jack Gibbs and Will Howes, who's a top 10 pickleball pro, to bring Notre Dame fans to Notre Dame Pickleball Crew League. Besides football, what better way to connect and engage Notre Dame fans than through pickleball? Membership is free, and members will have access to special pickleball events and discounts. The next event will be a Will House Pickleball Clinic on the Friday before the Syracuse game. Members can also get discounted tickets to the Syracuse game. Contact Todd at h2pickleball.com or call him at 574-339-5195 to join the league. Be sure to visit the H2 Pickleball facility in Mishawaka when you are in town. H2 Pickleball is located at 55801 Evergreen Plaza Drive in Mishawaka, Indiana.
The other thing, too, is I realize, people – I don't think people understand, Jamie. USC is a good team, and I don't think they're a great team, but I think they're good, and I think they can beat a lot of people when they play well. The thing that stands out about it, too, is like, I'll give you an example. When Georgia almost lost to Georgia Tech last year, did that hurt them? I mean, that didn't hurt them at all. Everybody's like, well, that's a rivalry game. But if Notre Dame doesn't blow out USC, then all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, they didn't play, they didn't blow out USC, and USC is good, but they're not great. But that's the kind of thing that I'm talking about. It's like, all these teams will go play these rivalry games, and it's always tough, just like when Notre Dame plays BC. I mean, certain teams are going to show up no matter what the record is, no matter what, the history brings out the best in each team when they play each other. And that's with Notre Dame and USC. It's always been that way. Even when USC is like a 3-9 team, they always play Notre Dame tough. Stanford almost always, especially when they play out there, plays Notre Dame tough regardless of the record. And yeah, I don't think Stanford's a great team, but they're not going to back down to Notre Dame. They're going to show up. Now, will they win? No. Do they? I don't think so. But will they play them tough? They could. It just depends on how the ball bounces and things like that. But Georgia didn't get beat down because they almost lost to Georgia Tech. Everybody said, "Oh, that's just the rivalry. That's who they are." And I mean, their defense got shredded in that game, so they looked terrible, and didn't hurt their rankings or anything like that. So, anyway, it is what it is. I do think we need to talk about Pitt. So let's. I want to get your thoughts. This quarterback's good. It's going to be interesting to see if Reed plays. I haven't seen anything on him yet as to whether he's expected to play yet or not. He has played some and hasn't looked like the same player at times. But having a week off, maybe he's going to be feeling better. He is a good player. He's a good back. I'm not sold on Pitt's line. I think that they're good, but I don't think they're great. I mean, I watched Syracuse, who is not a very good team, and Syracuse was giving them all kinds of fits. I do believe they get one of their guys back though. The Pitt guy, Pitt offensive lineman. Did one of them come back? I know they had some guys out. I don't know.
It's going to be. We're going to see if they're going to be back for this week or not. But they've had a bunch of injuries up front.
Sure.
They've had to play some guys out. So like the left tackle Jeff Percy's missed some time. They've played the other guy Kendall Stanley, who's another transfer there, and then they've lost their left guard earlier in the year too. And they really don't have the depth there, and so that is a thing where you do notice like a really big gap between those guys. But I will say, like, they have a lot of like Reed. They actually desperately need Reed in order to have a successful running game because one, like I said, the line's not that good, and he's a guy who can create on his own, right?
Yeah.
And he's obviously a different weapon. Like he had 70 targets as a running back last year. He was first team All AACC. He's very tough to tackle in space, but he has been hurt pretty much the whole year. Like he's tried to come back, and then every single time he's gotten hurt again. So if he plays in this game, which I wouldn't be surprised if he tries to, I just wouldn't expect him to be like kind of the same guy just because he hasn't been the same guy basically since early in the year. So, but they have speed at receiver.
Yeah, they got some good guys.
And then obviously, Heichel, Mason Heichel, the quarterback, they've been a much better offense since he's played, right? Like they're averaging 40 points a game since he's come in. He's 5-0 as a starter. Now he does a lot of I would say one of the things you see with him, he has like zero fear. Like he is a guy who's like comes out, he plays loose, and you can tell they feel confident in him, and he's confident, and he's ultra confident. And I think he is actually going to be like a really good player.
I agree.
But I think one of the things that and they've been perfect on fourth down since he's come in, like, and that says something, like, because obviously a lot of those are like, pressure moments where he's got to make plays and stuff too. And he has, but he throws the ball to the opposition too much. He's 10th highest in Power 4 and turnover worthy play percentage. He's got 9 total turnovers in 5 games, fumbled the ball 4 times, takes too many. He's been sacked 16 times in the 5 games, Mike. So, and 6 of them are on him. So his average time to throw is 3.11 seconds, the 6th highest in Power 4. Like he holds on the ball too long because he's always trying to make a play. That is just something that it's very similar to CJ Bailey at NC State, who's also a very good quarterback, right? But that is just not something that tends to work very well against Notre Dame when you do that. And Notre Dame obviously is, leads the country in interceptions. They've been really great at getting after the quarterback lately. And, especially when they can play against offensive lines that they, can overwhelm, that is something that, sticks out. They play up tempo. So that is also something to kind of think about there with them. So Notre Dame has to be like, ultra prepared. But the key is like, obviously you get them off the field early and then, you could do some good things. And then defensively, they are very much like it's very hard to run on them on purpose because that is like this. That is how the defense is built. Like they are like scheme, like they play their safeties super tight. They're played downhill. It's always been the same with Pat Narduzzi. By the way, Max Bulla, famously played for Pat Narduzzi and I know it's not the exact same defense because they've changed stuff and the game has been modernized and all that stuff too. He knows Pat Narduzzi's defense and Pat Narduzzi as defense corner probably better than anyone who's ever played for him. Like Narduzzi literally called him a computer when he played for him. So that is something. And I do recall that the last time they played Pitt, Notre Dame just like shredded Pitt's defense. So that is something I think to keep in mind, because although they'll sell out to stop the run and they've been really good at it, and they have good linebackers, but they've been banged up a bit. We'll see if those guys are back, if a couple of those guys are back this week. But they give you those shots in the passing game, and Notre Dame has just won a lot there. And also too, one of the things, they've been just exploited by tight ends. That has been a thing. Like Sam Rouge for Stanford, 8 for 104 when they just played last week. Justin Jolie from NC State, 6 for 101, 2 touchdowns. Pair of Louisville tight ends, combined 7 catches, 56 yards, 2 touchdowns. Grayson Barnes from West Virginia, who they lost to, 5 for 58 and a touchdown. With those guys, that they averaged 10.0 yards per attempt, and they had 5 touchdowns in those games. Obviously, this is a game. That's why I said the thing with Eli Raridon. This is a game where Eli Raridon, he's going to get matchups. And so far, there hasn't been a single anyone who has, when they've tried to one-on-one Eli Raridon, that he hasn't like exposed. And so that is something that I think, if people were going to look at it, like Raridon is probably going to have a day. He is probably going to have a day, and there's just going to be opportunities there, and they're going to try to, cause as much havoc as possible. Notre Dame has been awesome at protecting the quarterback. They've been great at it. And they don't have the exact same pass rushers. They blitz a ton. They're they're top 10 in blitz rate, but they're not as good. Their front four is not as good. They don't have an Aaron Donald this year. They don't have the regular defensive ends that they had. Most of those guys kind of transferred out. So they've lost some of that because some of those guys got NIL'd out. Like they couldn't afford them. So that is something why their defense and their pass defense, they give up a lot there, and they give up a lot of explosives. So, and generally that is a bad recipe against this Notre Dame offense.
I mean, CJ Carr is just really great against the blitz. I mean, he just seems to see things very, very well. And he's a guy that I think is going to be a big factor in this game. And everybody's going to try the same thing because it's somewhat worked in that, you can contain, Jeremiah Love's going to hit one big one every game, and maybe JD Price does as well. But everybody's done the same thing recently, trying to shut down Notre Dame's game. But do you have the secondary and do you have the pass rush to affect CJ Carr and cover Notre Dame's receivers? And I don't think they do. I do think it's going to be a challenge. I think Narduzzi does not like Notre Dame. I think that's very obvious. And, with a week off, I'm sure that they and the coaching staff realize, hey, just like everybody else, this is a way we can make a name for ourselves. This is a way we can, help our recruiting. This is a way we can, solidify our place as a good team in the ACC and all these things. So the staff's going to be highly, highly motivated. But, Marcus Freeman and this staff also realizes, hey, we get past this game. No, we can't overlook anybody, but this is kind of the one team who has a real shot to beat us. The others certainly can if we play very poorly, but, this is a game we're going to have to play well in order to win, and we're going to have to not shoot ourselves in the foot. Love seeing no penalties. I love seeing it's just, they just did such a good job of cleaning up all the things that we saw from BC in this last game. And we just got to hope they play clean again. And Notre Dame's done a really good job of protecting the football, taking the football away. We got to hope that happens in this game. If it does, I think Notre Dame, 15, 20 point win, but you got to be able to do that. And that's easier said than done, especially because I do think that Pitt's going to show up ready to play. There's no question about it. I'm glad it's not a night game. I'm very glad it's not a night game. I think if it were the atmosphere would get even bigger and more exciting. And so I'm glad it's the first game in the morning. I think that's a good thing. When you look at the BC game, I'm not sure that was the best situation, but I think this team will have Notre Dame's attention. So I'm excited to see what happens. Any final thoughts from you, Yama?
Well, I think there'll be a good Notre Dame contingent there too. There always is at Pitt games, right? Because they don't sell out, and so Notre Dame fans tend to buy up the tickets. There's obviously a lot of Notre Dame fans in the area too, so that's something to think about. Also, the Pitt is 128th in penalty yards per game, so if they're not getting a lot called, and anyone who's watched Pratt Narduzzi's defense knows that they are like DPI kings. They grab more than anybody.
Oh, absolutely.
When it comes to deep shots and all that. If Notre Dame isn't getting calls in this game, and it's that, then you 1,000% know that it is.
They're trying to.
ACC refs is really ACC refs should be trending if that happens.
Well, and it's look, if I'm Marcus Freeman, I spend my whole day talking to the refs. Before the game, how they always walk around and talk, and hey, let's go talk to Narduzzi. And no, I'm on the refs the whole game. Hey, look, this is what they do. I watch it over and over and over. You got to watch this. I'm just telling you. I would just be in their ear the whole time, and I would just be saying, look. You're not going to need to watch it because I'm going to be here telling you about it all game long. Just so you know, I'm going to be here and I'm going to be telling you about it because this is what they do and they don't get called on it. And, and look, we've had some bad situations in the past and we got to make sure that this is called correctly. You don't want to be a pest or anything, but at the same time, you do got to make your point. And I do think it's important for a head coach, especially in these types of situations, especially with so much on the line, that, hey, you put your thoughts in there before the game and just say, hey, this is what has happened in the past and this is what we see on film and for whatever reason it's not getting called. Well, this is a foul. It just is what it is. So anyway. All right, folks, that's going to be it. Everybody always talks about my guitars. I do have a lot of guitars. I do. And I think people would be shocked if they saw how many were on the other side of the screen too. It's a lot of people have golf. A lot of people have, classic cars. They have, I don't do any of that. This is what I do. So, and I don't buy like crazy expensive guitars either. I just don't because I used to, but I learned that a lot of mid-level guitars are easily as good as great, very expensive guitars, as long as you know how to set them up properly. And it took me a while to learn that. And so I sold all my expensive ones and I have a few still, but an Epiphone's just a great guitar for me if you know how to set it up. So that's just the way it is. All right, folks, that's going to be it. I hope you guys enjoyed that. We will be back next week, hopefully after a big win over Pitt. And this one's it's kind of like playing USC to me. I just don't like this coach. I just don't. And I think the reason I don't like him is he's been very effective against Notre Dame in the past at times. He really has. So I got to give him his props. He's done a very good job coaching against Notre Dame numerous times at Michigan State and in Pitt. And so this guy is a good coach. Narduzzi is a good coach. And if they play well, it could be a challenge. Thanks for listening, folks. We will talk to you next week on Power Hour.